The story begins with a man swinging his sword, declaring, "I was once Calathero." This hero, who once saved the world from the Underlord, the monarch of the underworld, had fought a kingdom-darkening battle that left half the world stained with blood. He was known as Aiden Albero, the Dragon Slayer King. Or as I like to call myself, guy who saved your skins, but that's just me. But fate had other plans. When he defeated the Underlord, a curse fell upon him. Aiden was left on the ground, cursing the world as he found himself surrounded by the very people he'd called friends. He asked them, "Didn't you all know it from the beginning? That those who seek to destroy iniquity might just become the new iniquity?" One man, smirking, told him that it was a legend passed down through the imperial family and that, unfortunately, we all just thought you'd be better at ducking the curse. The man explained that the Underlord was a perpetual existence. In other words, you kill it, you buy it. Anyone who kills him doesn't simply die but is destined to become the next Underlord. With a sly grin, he said, "What an honor it must be for the great Dragon Slayer King, who defeated the monarch, to become the new one." He went on, almost as if begging Aiden to make this sacrifice for the country. Another man added that they had no other options left and said bluntly that he didn't seek Aiden's forgiveness. Aiden gritted his teeth. "Oh, don't worry," he muttered, "forgiveness wasn't exactly on my mind anyway." Then, a woman in the crowd, weapon in hand, smiled at him and said, "You've worked hard enough. Now, rest in peace." Aiden was stunned. He recognized the weapon. It was a Grand Seal Gleipnir. Ah, yes, the grand betrayal. Slowly, Aiden's form began to fade. His thoughts drifted to his so-called friends and comrades. He trusted them, believed in their bond. Guess they weren't friends forever material, huh? Yet, as his essence was sealed in an abyss, a place devoid of time, a bottomless pit, Aiden vowed he would make them pay, one by one. As he fell into the eternal darkness, he thought, "I'll kill every last one of them." Suddenly, he muttered something aloud, surprising the two men nearby. One of them asked, "Did he just say something?" The other, referring to Aiden as master, asked if he was awake. Aiden, groggy and dazed, was confused about where he was. Then a woman approached, tears streaming, asking if he was all right. "Gracias a Dios, my precious boy, you're awake," she exclaimed. When he finally opened his eyes, Aiden looked around in bewilderment. He asked, "Who are you? And can someone explain why you're crying like I've won a toddler pageant?" The woman, startled, said he'd been asleep for 2 days, insisting that he must be out of his mind. She hugged him tightly, calling him Aiden Ramez. Shocked, he realized this woman didn't call him Aiden Albero but Aiden Ramez. From that day on, Aiden Albero was reincarnated as Aiden Ramez, the Duke's eldest son. Suddenly, he felt a sharp pain in his head. His mother asked if he was okay. In that moment, a flood of memories hit him, memories of Aiden Ramez. Aiden Albero was overwhelmed by visions of a life he never lived, confused as to why he now held the memories of this Duke's son. Checking his hand, Aiden tried to orient himself. Is this the 450th year in the imperial calendar? Isn't this 15 years before I died? He recalled the moment his companions betrayed him, forcing him to die rather than take the Underlord's place. Revenge definitely has a 15-year savings plan, he thought grimly. Now reincarnated as Aiden Ramez, he vowed, they may beg me now, but I won't forgive them. I'll hunt them down, one by one. As he stewed, he learned that the previous owner of this body had been, well, a charming scumbag. I come back to life, and of all the bodies in the world, I end up with this one, he mused, shaking his head. Why was Aiden Ramez found drunk and rain-drenched? Just my luck, Aiden muttered. This isn't exactly how I pictured my triumphant return to life. The next day, Aiden gazed at his new reflection, noting how strange it felt. Could this have all been a dream? Am I truly Aiden Albero or just someone who dreams of grandeur? In that instant, he wondered about his former powers and thought, might as well check what this new life comes with. He opened a mental system display, where his information appeared. The interface showed him as human. All his past titles, King of the Mercenaries, Reaper of the Warlocks, Nemesis of Tulos, were marked as unavailable, to be restored in due time. Aiden was stunned. Memories of his strength, the power he'd gained from consuming the heart of the Berserk Dragon, and his title as Dragon Slayer King all came flooding back. Aiden was still coming to grips with his reincarnation, realizing he hadn't just dreamed his life as the Dragon Slayer King. He laughed, though it nagged at him that his new name wasn't quite as grand as Aiden Albero. But hey, he said to himself, a little broken name never stopped me before. Maybe this is the god's idea of a regift. Determined, he declared, all I need now is to find them and tear them limb from limb. Just then, a disciple entered, startled to find Aiden laughing alone. The disciple asked what was going on, giving a polite smile but clearly confused. Is it just me, or is my master's threatening chuckle quota increasing lately? Nevertheless, he offered Aiden a drink, which Aiden immediately took, thanking the disciple with enthusiasm. The man blinked, dumbfounded. Since when did the young master say thank you? Aiden noticed the disciple's reaction. What's the big deal? He laughed, grinning as he asked if the drink was good and whether he could also get some water. But the disciple was trembling now, clearly alarmed by this sudden politeness. As Aiden drank the coffee, he remarked how it tasted lovely, further baffling the disciple, who couldn't decide if he'd just had a genuine compliment or a near-death experience. When Aiden asked if he had anything else to say, the disciple quickly replied, "No, sir," and fled. As he reunited with a companion, he muttered, "How did I even survive in there?" He said, "Thank you." His companion frowned, confused. "Are you sure you're not just losing it?" Back in his room, Aiden shook his head. Apparently, saying thank you was a bit too intense around here, he thought, amused and slightly irritated. He reflected on his regression, realizing he'd been thrown 15 years back. But this raised a question: what happened to the original Aiden Ramez in this timeline? By now, he should have gained his independence from Master Balkan, the former mercenary king. Curious, Aiden went out of his room and called for Philip, one of his disciples. Philip and another disciple exchanged shocked glances. Did he just call me by name? Philip stammered. Aiden smiled and asked if he was okay, startling Philip even more. At this, Philip's companion gave him a grave pat on the shoulder, whispering, "Thanks for everything. You will be remembered." Philip stared at him, speechless. "What is up with him today?" he muttered. Aiden asked Philip what he knew about the mercenary king and his disciple, mentioning that he'd once been known as the mercenary king's protege. Philip told him that rumors claimed the mercenary king had gone missing, but as for a disciple? None that I've heard of, sir. You sure you're not mixing up legends? Aiden was stunned. No way, he thought. Did my reputation not get a 15-year head start? He couldn't believe that the name Aiden Albero, disciple of Balkan, was unknown in this timeline. The thought nagged at him, what could the original him be doing right now? Back in his past life, young Aiden was growing up on the streets. One day, he tried his luck by stealing from a stranger, swiping a money bag and slipping away with a smirk. Big shot walking around with such a juicy bag of coin, he thought. Who does he think he is? However, his triumph was short-lived, as the man suddenly appeared right behind him, smirking. Well, you've got guts, the man said, watching as Aiden's confidence evaporated. It turned out the stranger was Balkan, the king of mercenaries himself. Grabbing Aiden's shoulder, Balkan sized him up, saying, "You've got a sturdy build, kid. How'd you like to be my disciple?" Thus began Aiden's intense training under Balkan, leading him to become a force in his own right. By the time he defeated the Berserk Dragon, he had earned the title of Dragon Slayer King. In the present, Aiden was shaken by Philip's response. If no one knew about the disciple of the mercenary king, then did he even exist in this timeline? As he pondered this, two disciples discussed him in the hall. Have you noticed? One said. Young master has changed a lot lately. Yes. Last time, Philip spilled wine on him, and he didn't throw a single thing. Not even a plate. You mean, he didn't pull the dodge this cup lesson on him? The other disciple was still in disbelief, whispering, maybe he's just preparing for something even scarier. Aiden's behavior had been the talk of the disciples. He even thanked me, one disciple exclaimed, still in shock. And he started calling me by name. It's like he's gone soft. The others nodded. Guess that whole near-death experience thing actually changes people, though in his case, it's more like he's come back with a whole new personality. Have you seen his eyes lately? Spiritless, like he's already seen everything. They whispered, watching him with a mixture of worry and fascination. Meanwhile, Aiden found himself oddly bored. His meals were prepared, the servants handled the dishes, and every search for his old self, Aiden Albero, confirmed that he didn't even exist in this timeline. But the betrayal he'd suffered still gnawed at him, along with the taste of revenge he hadn't yet taken. Just then, he noticed two men sparring. Ah, something interesting, he thought. Carl, Aiden's younger brother, noticed him watching and approached. Unlike the previous Aiden Ramez, who had been lazy and rather entitled, Carl was diligent and had already trained as a knight. He also held succession rights and had little respect for his elder brother. Carl scowled, asking, "What are you even doing here? Shouldn't you be drinking yourself silly like always?" Aiden raised an eyebrow. Good to see you too, Carl. Just thought I'd enjoy a bit of live-action entertainment. Carl rolled his eyes, his expression clearly showing his disgust. The knight's training isn't for the likes of you to watch. If you're not here to spar, then get lost. Aiden, genuinely curious, replied, Fine, I'll spar. Carl blinked, utterly confused. Excuse me? But Aiden only gave him a small smile, confirming he was serious. Carl mentally prepared himself for an amusing disaster. This should be good. On the training grounds, a trainee named Bazin kneeled before Aiden, introducing himself with the formalities of the Knight's Code. Aiden simply nodded, a hint of mischief in his eyes. The other knights watched from a distance, whispering. Should we stop this? He is still the young master, one asked, to which the other replied, Nah, Bazin's no fool, he'll lose on purpose if he has to. But Bazin felt uneasy. Sparring with the infamous young master out of the blue? How do I convincingly lose without getting fired? Aiden seemed to sense Bazin's hesitation. Smiling, he said, It's been a while since I've had a decent warm-up. How about I push you a little? Bazin swallowed. He hadn't signed up for this. They raised their wooden swords, and Aiden leaned in, telling him not to throw the match. Think about it, if you lose to me, an incompetent alcoholic, you'll have to leave the order. Bazin gulped, trying to hide his nerves. Meanwhile, Carl watched, mentally preparing himself for the embarrassment his brother was about to endure. The scum's finally lost it, he thought. He hasn't even touched a sword before. Does he think he's in some training montage? The sparring began, with Bazin striking first. Aiden blocked, though the impact jolted him. Ouch, this body's weaker than I remember, he thought. Guess all those years of wine didn't do it any favors. But something inside him stirred. It felt good. He could feel his blood rushing, igniting his old instincts. As he exchanged blows with Bazin, he grinned, even as his body protested. The other knights were wide-eyed. Is he really keeping up? One muttered, genuinely surprised. Even Carl, watching closely, was shocked. Why won't he just go down? Bazin, too, was perplexed, certain that Aiden wouldn't stand a chance, yet finding his strikes blocked every time. The thrill of the fight was refreshing, and Aiden could feel his past strength creeping back. Guess being the Dragon Slayer King comes with a few perks, he thought, smirking. As they continued, Bazin's expression changed from disdain to genuine alarm. This isn't the sloppy drunk I was expecting. He's actually fighting? Aiden, meanwhile, felt exhilaration he hadn't felt in ages. Each strike was precise, controlled. Feels like my old self is waking up, he mused, and he chuckled to himself. Maybe there's more left in this broken name than I thought. The onlookers were flabbergasted. No way Bazin's getting pushed back by him, one muttered. Even Carl, though annoyed, couldn't deny the skill his brother was displaying. How is he? Aiden could barely take a swing at a wine bottle, let alone a knight. Bazin, visibly struggling, noticed something unsettling. Aiden's strikes were different now, more deliberate, more skilled. He couldn't believe it. How is he doing this? It's like he's been holding back, Bazin thought, realizing that Aiden was no ordinary sparring partner today. This is the same man who'd get winded walking upstairs. For Aiden, each strike felt like coming home. The instincts he'd honed as the Dragon Slayer King hadn't vanished, they'd only been waiting to resurface. Even though this body was weak and lacking muscle, here stood Aiden Albero, the Dragon Slayer King, famed for slaying the Berserk Dragon. Despite the state of his borrowed physique, his skill was still evident. Aiden swung his sword in one final, calculated strike, forcing Bazin to retreat in shock, his back hitting the training ground fence. Aiden pointed his sword at him, a playful grin spreading across his face. So, are you going to surrender? Bazin, stunned and out of breath, could only nod as whispers erupted among the knights nearby. Did Bazin actually lose to the young master? They muttered, unable to process what they'd seen. Aiden broke into laughter, turning to Carl. Thanks for setting up the spar, Carl. That was refreshing. Carl smirked, though clearly taken aback. Glad to hear that, he replied, still piecing together this new Aiden. Aiden waved to the knights as he departed, adding with a mischievous grin, Don't worry, I'll stop by often. Gotta keep up this training, right? He strolled away, leaving the knights bewildered and Carl still staring, scratching his head. Is that really the same useless brother I've always known? Carl muttered, and another knight chimed in, equally baffled. That night, Aiden examined his hand, stretching his fingers thoughtfully. This body couldn't even handle one duel, he murmured with a smirk, lying back on his bed. But it did feel good to let out some of my frustrations, he admitted, feeling a sense of clarity and newfound purpose. The heavens had granted him another shot at life and revenge. But his enemies, the country's most dangerous and influential figures, were no ordinary foes. There was the Night King, the Grand Duke of Just-Silber-Desire, an iron-blooded saint, the cult leader speaker, the Grand Archmage Shora, and the vice-commander of the Immortal Empire, all renowned, nearly mythical forces unto themselves. A band of one-man armies, he thought grimly, aware that if they joined forces, his vengeance might be impossible. Aiden sighed, planning his approach. He'd need to act quickly, to dismantle them before they ever thought of an alliance, ideally within 5 years, before the coalition against dark magicians could form. I'll have to push this body and tear it apart before I can rebuild it strong enough for what's coming, he concluded. By morning, he was already putting his plans in motion. When Philip entered the room, Aiden handed him a list, full of ingredients that raised eyebrows. Philip glanced over the list, his eyes widening. "Young master, do you really want to buy all of these?" he stammered. Aiden gave him a blank look. "Problem?" Philip skimmed the list again. "Well, there's high-grade holy potions here, but the rest are poisons." He looked back at Aiden, incredulous. Aiden only smiled, thinking to himself that even if he explained, no one would believe him anyway. He gave Philip a reassuring pat on the shoulder, wondering if the previous Aiden ever tried to pull something like this. With a smirk, Aiden leaned in. "Tell me, Philip, wouldn't you like to play along?" he whispered, his tone hinting at mischief. "It's been so dull around here, wouldn't you agree it's time for a little excitement?" Philip, wide-eyed, instantly backed away. "And no objections, sir. I'll fetch everything right away." He practically bolted from the room, leaving Aiden grinning in amusement. "So I can still scare him off with a look. Good to know," he mused, chuckling. With the funds and status of a duke's son at his disposal, Aiden knew he had a chance to regain the strength he'd once achieved as a swordmaster. This time, though, he'd be taking an unconventional route. His plan was far from normal, a break-then-heal strategy, where he would push his body to its limits with intense training and then restore it with mana potions, healing any damage he inflicted. A month and a half later, his training grounds were a makeshift laboratory of strength-building supplies. "Bring me the mana potion, Philip," he called, his gaze steady as he stood before his latest training setup. Without a second's delay, Philip handed him the bottle. Aiden gulped it down, feeling the energy surge through his veins. "Break it down, then build it back stronger," he muttered, impressed by the power of the potent elixir, each one costing as much as a month's salary for the average commoner. Being the son of a well-funded duke had its perks, and he planned to make full use of them. Aiden glanced over at Philip. "Where are the other ingredients I requested?" "They're all in your room, young master," Philip replied, hesitant to ask what Aiden planned to do with such an odd assortment of plants, some of them lethal. Remembering Aiden's whispered suggestion from the other night, Philip cleared his throat, hurriedly adding, "I'm not curious in the slightest, sir." Aiden chuckled to himself. "Good man, Philip. Good man." Aiden entered his room and spotted the ingredients Philip had gathered, the flower of despair, the hellflower, and a handful of other poisonous plants. He'd never imagined using this method, but here he was. As he picked up the hellflower, memories of Kelsey and Shura surfaced. They were the ones who created the theory, after all, infused the body with toxins, and in its desperate struggle to survive, it would unlock hidden potential. It was risky, a misstep could mean death, but he had the highest quality holy potion to keep him alive. With a steady breath, Aiden bit into the poisonous flower, then down the holy potion. Almost immediately, pain erupted through him, his vision blurring as his knees buckled. Clutching his sides, he gasped, "This hurts like hell." He gritted his teeth, noting that despite the agony, his mana flow felt smoother. He smirked to himself. "Typical of those traitors from my past life," he muttered. Suddenly, a voice cut through his thoughts, a chilling familiarity in its tone. "Having fun, are we, king of dragon slayers?" Aiden's blood ran cold. He froze, eyes wide, as that voice, a voice he'd vowed to never forget, echoed again. Rage flared within him, and he spat, "Show yourself. Where are you, you coward?" But the voice vanished as quickly as it had come, replaced by a knock at the door. Philip entered, his face paling at the sight of Aiden's condition. "Young master, there was a loud noise, are you all right?" Aiden narrowed his gaze. "Get out. Now." Philip's eyes widened, but he nodded hastily, retreating as quickly as he'd come. Aiden clenched his fists, his mind racing. He definitely heard that voice, it was no hallucination. But just as he steadied himself, the figure of a man materialized before him, a familiar smirk stretching across a face he'd last seen lifeless. Aiden's breath hitched. The Underlord, he whispered, staring at the figure. The Underlord laughed, a chilling sound that grated on Aiden's nerves. It's been a while, King of Dragon Slayers. I've caught you, haven't I? He laughed again, each note laced with mocking familiarity. Aiden's jaw tightened, fury and confusion mingling in his expression. Scoundrel! Why are you here? He demanded. I saw you die with my own eyes. The Underlord only laughed harder. Did you miss me that much? Unfortunately for you, my soul lives on. Aiden's mind spun with questions, but he composed himself and shot back, if you don't have a body, how are you talking to me? The Underlord's expression shifted, his gaze turning serious. Have you forgotten, Aiden? In the end, I died becoming the Underlord, a cursed soul bound by the demon god's will. Aiden clenched his fists, his knuckles white as he pieced it together. Are you saying that I'm the Underlord now? Half right, half wrong, the Underlord replied with a sneer. In that last moment, I embedded my soul within yours, intending to take over and resurrect myself. But you thwarted that plan by choosing to die. Aiden let out a sharp, mirthless laugh. So, I ruined your plan even in death? His mind raced with the implications. So your soul exists within me? The Underlord nodded, and Aiden felt a new wave of anger rise. Then how do I kill that soul? Drown myself in holy power? Or will we have to die together? The Underlord gave him an incredulous look. Wait. Before you do anything rash, just listen to me. He took a step closer. Aiden, I'm not the same man you knew before. The madness you saw back then? It wasn't my true self. That insanity came from my link to the demon god. When I was trapped in the void, that link was severed. Aiden studied him, noting the stark difference. The Underlord indeed seemed more composed, able to hold a rational conversation. So, without the demon god's influence, you're actually sane, he muttered, remembering the deranged creature he'd once faced. The Underlord's expression softened. Yes, and the demon god is no mere legend. Known as the original sin, it is a being of pure malice, feared even by the gods. For centuries, I was cursed to carry out his will, but now, I am free. Aiden crossed his arms, his voice cold. Then tell me something. This second life of mine, going back 15 years, inhabiting this body, was this your doing? The Underlord met his gaze, pausing before responding. In a way. When I entered your body, I tried to manipulate the dragon's mana to turn back time, not that I expected it to work so well. Aiden narrowed his eyes, but somewhere in his expression, a hint of a smirk crept in. Well, I suppose I should thank you. You've given me another chance at life, and at revenge. The Underlord mirrored his smirk. Then we have a mutual interest, Aiden Albiro. My existence depends on your success, after all. 1 month passed, and though the Underlord occasionally reappeared, Aiden was growing used to his intrusions, if only for the familiarity of a shared past. Yet the training method was proving effective, his strength was returning rapidly. But his scarecrow target wouldn't suffice anymore. One morning, Aiden noticed the knight's training and smirked. Perfect. New practice dummies. As he approached, he spotted a man among them who looked vaguely familiar. When another knight addressed him as Lo, Aiden froze. The free knight, Lo. In his past life, Lo had been a rough but loyal ally, even sacrificing himself in the battle against the mad dragon. Driven by an unexpected surge of emotion, Aiden strode up to him. Lo's eyes widened as Aiden closed the distance, glaring at him. Is that how you greet a superior? Aiden demanded, a steely edge to his voice. Lo stammered, lowering his gaze. Apprentice Knight Lo, at your service, young Master Aiden, he muttered, though a flicker of irritation crossed his face. Aiden laughed softly, amused by Lo's reaction. This is actually entertaining, he thought. Lo's frustration was palpable. But just as Lo mentally cursed his superior, Aiden smirked. You're wondering why this ruffian is picking on you, aren't you? Lo blanched, his irritation turning to confusion and a flicker of fear. And no, I wouldn't dare, he replied, though his curiosity about Aiden's sudden change in behavior remained. Aiden leaned in, his tone calm. Meet me tonight at the training grounds, Lo. I've got a small gift for you, he said, patting Lo's shoulder. As he walked away, he murmured to himself, you saved my life once, Lo. Consider this repayment. That night, Aiden waited in the training grounds under the darkening sky, looking up at the stars until he sensed Lo's presence. Lo approached cautiously, his expression a mix of confusion and apprehension. How did you know my secret? Lo's voice was barely more than a whisper, his eyes wide and glistening. And, can you really fix my arm? Aiden nodded, noticing the flicker of hope in Lo's gaze. Yes. I know your arm's stiffness has held you back. If it weren't for that, you'd have lived as a knight instead of a mercenary. A silent tear rolled down Lo's cheek. He clutched his arm, wrestling with the remnants of the injury that had haunted him for so long. It's true, he thought, a desperate hope blooming in his chest. In that quiet moment, Aiden extended his hand. Tonight, I'll repay my debt to you, Lo. Lo gazed at Aiden, uncertain. His right arm, which had gradually stiffened over the years, seemed beyond hope, but Aiden quickly identified the issue. You have Manhwa syndrome, he said, surprising Lo. The condition was notorious among those familiar with mana-channeling ailments, leaving even skilled knights helpless. Lo's face turned pale. But, that's incurable. Most people say that, Aiden replied calmly, because they don't know the cure yet. It'll be discovered in 10 years, but I happen to know it now. Lo blinked, still in disbelief. So, you're saying you can fix my arm? Aiden's gaze narrowed. Yes, but there's nothing free in this world. He held out a contract, and Lo read it, eyes widening. The terms were simple but stringent. He would spar with Aiden daily and obey his commands without question. This is practically a slave contract. Lo protested, his face flushing with indignation. Correct, Aiden replied, unflinching. Do you accept, or not? Lo hesitated, then sighed. He couldn't afford to pass up the chance to regain full use of his arm, even if it came with strings attached. Reluctantly, he agreed. Inwardly, Aiden chuckled. To think I'd one day make him my sparring partner, and so much more. A few days later, they found themselves riding toward the quiet, out-of-the-way town of Maryland. Lo peered out of the carriage window, eyebrows raised. Are you certain this is the place? It seems strange. Aiden shot him a look. Doubting me already? Lo stammered, quickly shaking his head, and when the carriage stopped, they stepped down, following Aiden to a modest, worn-looking shop. A sign on the door read, not a clinic. We don't make drugs either. Go away, druggists. Aiden smirked as he remembered the shop's significance. This was the very place where, in his previous life, Lo had tried to cure his ailment. They entered to find the shop seemingly empty, save for an enormous painting on the wall, depicting a gleaming red stone. Lo looked at it curiously. What's this supposed to be? He asked. The Philosopher's Stone, Aiden replied. An object said to hold divine power, to interfere with the laws of gods, even bringing the dead back to life. A voice cut in. Impressive knowledge for a mere visitor. A woman emerged from the shadows, her hood drawn low. She surveyed Aiden with a suspicious gaze, but Aiden knew her well. Step outside, Lo, Aiden ordered. Once Lo had gone, he turned to the woman, smiling faintly. It's been a while, Cassie. Still playing alchemist, I see. Cassie's eyes widened. You know my name? Aiden nodded. I also know you're struggling with Manhwa syndrome yourself, he added, his voice low and pointed. Cassie froze, her hand instinctively reaching for her concealed weapon. And unless you want that condition to worsen, you'll need a fresh supply of specific herbs. Otherwise, your symptoms will only intensify. Cassie took a shaky breath, eyes narrowing. Who are you really? Lo's condition was stable, limited to his arm, but Cassie's case was far worse. Manhwa syndrome had spread throughout her organs, leaving her severely weakened. Cassie smirked, noting Aiden's knowledge about her. You're quite informed, aren't you, young master, she remarked, adding that while she was researching a cure, she hadn't yet found it, meaning she couldn't heal Lo's arm. Aiden, undeterred, offered her a deal. If she cured his knight, he'd provide protection and support for her research at his family's estate. Cassie seemed interested but was about to add a condition when Aiden produced something unusual, a document containing an incomplete formula for curing Manhwa syndrome. Cassie scanned it, stunned, and asked for half a month to attempt a remedy. Aiden then pushed further, eyeing her ring of swiftness, a rare artifact capable of tripling its wearer's speed for short bursts. He explained that the ring was vital to him as a memory from his previous life, where it had been instrumental in Lo achieving S-rank status. Cassie hesitated, acknowledging that the ring was crucial for her own defense, but ultimately agreed to his terms on the condition that she could continue her research in peace. With the deal struck, Cassie handed over the ring and prepared to join him at the Duke's estate. Later at the Duke's mansion, Aiden began to settle Cassie in when Philip, one of the household staff, approached him in a panic. Young Master Carl has gone missing in Monster Mountain. Philip explained that Carl had led an investigation team to search for a missing person 2 days prior, but he and his knights had not returned. Aiden's mind raced. While Monster Mountain was typically home to minor creatures, Carl's disappearance posed a severe threat to Aiden's own plans. If something happened to Carl, he would be forced into the air position, unraveling his strategies for revenge. Determined, Aiden told Philip he would join the search party, asking Philip to guide Cassie to her room in the meantime. Approaching his father with the request to join the search, Aiden was met with resistance. His father, alarmed by Carl and the knight's vanishing, insisted that it was too dangerous to send Aiden. Thinking quickly, Aiden forced himself to cry, pleading, "But he's my brother." Though he was internally fuming, he kept up the ruse, knowing he couldn't afford to let anything hinder his plans. The Underlord chuckled in his mind, mocking Aiden's disgusting display, but Aiden ignored him, pushing his emotions to the surface. Moved by Aiden's apparent concern, his father hugged him, grateful to see such compassion in his son, a reaction that played perfectly into Aiden's hands. In a quiet moment, Aiden chuckled, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing ahead. His father had just summoned Spiel, the only person he deemed trustworthy enough to look after Aiden. "You can count on me," Spiel said, trying to sound confident, while inside he was already regretting his life choices. Meanwhile, Aiden was sulking, muttering to himself about how this whole babysitting gig felt more like a burden than an honor. It wasn't exactly how he envisioned spending his day. As Spiel, the vice-captain of the Remise Night Order, strolled through the forest, he noted the odd silence. "Something feels off," he remarked, glancing around like a deer caught in headlights. Suddenly, Aiden's attention shifted when he stumbled upon a sword. "Hey, look at this! Goblin gear," he exclaimed, waving it around like it was a trophy. "We've got ourselves a situation. Carl and the knights are being overrun by goblins? Pathetic!" Spiel's eyes widened. "Goblins? But these aren't just your average goblins. We might be facing hobgoblins." "Perfect. Just what we need, a goblin king with a superiority complex," Aiden replied, rolling his eyes. Spiel knew they needed to prepare, but Aiden was insistent. "No time for chit-chat. If we don't move fast, we'll be goblin snacks." "Relax, we've got search dogs on it," Spiel replied, attempting to keep the situation calm. "Search dogs? I hope they didn't take a coffee break," Aiden quipped, exasperated. "Just bring me a dog already." In a flash, a search dog appeared, tail wagging like it was on a mission. Aiden grinned. "Good boy." He then produced a mysterious bottle and poured its contents into the dog's mouth. Spiel's jaw dropped. "What are you doing?" "Relax. It's a scent enhancement potion," Aiden explained. "Cassie got it for me before we left. Super handy for situations like this." With the dog sniffing eagerly, Aiden rallied the knights. "All right, everyone. Let's roll out." As night descended, they approached the goblin village. Spiel suddenly pointed. "Look! It's Carl and the other knights. They're alive? What a pleasant surprise." Aiden sighed, relieved but suspicious. "Something feels off, though," Spiel said, narrowing his eyes. Just then, goblins emerged from the shadows, and Aiden scratched his head. "Why are there 3 leaders? Did they start a union?" Spiel, ever the serious type, warned everyone. "Hobgoblins are no joke. We need to give it our all." He turned to Aiden. "You focus on rescuing the hostages." "Sure, no problem," Aiden replied, smirking to himself. "With this many knights around, I can probably take a coffee break." As Spiel charged in, Aiden leaped into the fray, declaring, "Time to wipe the floor with these goblins." The hostages watched in awe, one of them exclaiming, "We're saved." Aiden rushed to unlock their chains, asking, "Everyone okay?" Carl stared at him, wide-eyed. "You? Here? Yeah, it's me. Untying you is my side gig," Aiden joked. "Now, knights will cover you. Get out of here." As the villagers scrambled away, Carl tapped Aiden on the shoulder. "Careful. There's a monster." "Monster? Or hobgoblin?" Aiden quipped, scanning the area. "Behind you." Carl shouted just as a massive hobgoblin lunged at him. Aiden barely dodged the attack, realizing with dread that this was worse than he thought. 3 hobgoblins? Great. But wait, what's that? A troll? Oh, fantastic. Run. Aiden yelled at Carl. "Take the villagers and go." "But it's a troll. You'll get killed." Carl protested. Aiden chuckled, brushing it off. "I know it's a troll. I'll be fine. I'm the older brother, remember?" Carl muttered under his breath, "So what? You're just a damn scoundrel." And thus, the night grew darker, the stakes higher, and Aiden braced himself for what was about to unfold. Aiden gripped his sword tightly, preparing to launch himself at the hulking troll. With a leap that would make even a deer jealous, he soared through the air, narrowly dodging a punch that left a crater in the ground. "Nice try, big guy," he taunted, slashing at the monster's leg. The troll howled, dropping to one knee, but just as quickly, its wound began to heal like it had a personal supply of band-aids. Panting, Aiden couldn't help but smirk. "You're tough, but I've faced my share of challenges, like running out of snacks during a movie marathon." The troll glared, clearly enraged. Just then, Spiel shouted, "Let me handle this," as he swung his sword with the grace of a lumberjack at a dance-off. Aiden could feel the weight of the moment. Hobgoblins are one thing, but a troll? Great, just what I needed. The troll, clearly not a fan of Aiden's witty banter, clenched its fist and swung. Aiden sidestepped, grinning. "Good thing I had Cassie pack this." He activated his ring of swiftness, feeling the rush of adrenaline as time slowed down. 10 seconds of pure speed? Let's do this. With 8 seconds remaining, Aiden slashed at the troll's hand, infuriating it further. With each attack, he whirled around, hitting the troll like it owed him money. "You can't catch me," he shouted, feeling like a video game character with a cheat code. Then, summoning flames on his sword, he made a final, dramatic slash, severing the troll's head clean off. "This is what you get for messing with the wrong knight." As the troll crumpled, Spiel declared, "This side is finished. Knights, assist Aiden." He glanced at Aiden, bewildered by the blue energy swirling around his sword. But before he could ponder it too deeply, Aiden was sent flying into a nearby tree, landing in a bird's nest that was probably too small for a real knight. "Ow! My body feels like it went through a blender." Aiden groaned, struggling to stand. "Used the sword aura for 10 seconds, and now I feel like I've run a marathon. Definitely need to be careful with that ring." The next day, at the Duke's estate, Aiden's father surveyed the aftermath. "So many injuries," he muttered. "Spiel, ensure the victims are compensated." Spiel nodded but then hesitated. "Is it true Aiden defeated the troll?" "Yes," Spiel replied, "I witnessed it." The Duke raised an eyebrow, questioning if this was really his son they were discussing. Meanwhile, Aiden was deep in meditation that night, flames dancing around him. "Using the sword aura, my mana capacity feels bigger? Like I just discovered an all-you-can-eat buffet." He clenched his fist, realizing he was still weak and needed to become even stronger to crush his foes. Suddenly, a small dragon appeared, a cheeky grin on its face. "I like your determination." Aiden jumped, surprised. "Where did you come from?" "I know that voice." The dragon laughed. "You figured it out. I am the Lord of the Underworld, the Underlord." Aiden rolled his eyes, half amused. "The Underlord? Seriously? I expected something more intimidating." "Don't laugh," the Underlord said, trying to maintain some dignity, but Aiden couldn't help but chuckle. "I can't help it. Look at you." Aiden teased, enjoying the moment. "It's your fault for being so weak," the Underlord snapped back, but Aiden just laughed harder. "What? I'm supposed to take advice from a dragon who's essentially a curse?" Aiden retorted. "Hey, that's a bit silly, don't you think?" the Underlord replied, smirking. "Shut up," Aiden said, rolling his eyes. With a sigh, the Underlord replied, "Fine, you can call me whatever you want. I'm just here for the ride." A week later, Aiden knocked on Cassie's door, curiosity bubbling over. "Hey, Cassie. Is the treatment going well?" he asked, stepping inside, eager to catch up and maybe steal some snacks while he was at it. Cassie looked up, startled, and exclaimed, "Oh my, the Trollmaster has come to visit." Aiden gritted his teeth. Great, now he was stuck with a title that made him sound like a mountain troll had adopted him. Troll Master? Really? Why couldn't they just call him Troll Slayer and let him bask in the glory? He quickly shifted the subject. "Where's Lo?" "In here," Cassie replied, and Aiden rushed into the room, only to find Lo looking like he'd just seen a ghost. The poor guy was crying, flailing his arms like he'd just discovered they were back to normal. "Thank you, young master, for recognizing and treating my condition," Lo cried, his voice cracking. "Though I am but a lowly being, I swear to dedicate my life to you." Aiden couldn't help but chuckle. "I gladly accept your pledge." But in his mind, he was already planning to work him like a horse. "Did you undergo treatment?" Aiden asked Cassie, his curiosity piqued. Cassie smiled sweetly. "Her mana severance syndrome is a bit unusual, it needs more research, maybe another month." "Well, you did a great job," Aiden praised, and Cassie beamed. "It's thanks to the method you suggested," she replied, then added with a teasing tone, "Trollmaster." "Ugh!" Aiden groaned, shooting a glare at Lo. If you're fully healed, get out here already. We have work to do. Yes, understood, sir. Give me any task. Lo replied, a smile plastered on his face. But once Lo was out, he was handed physical labor for his first task, and he exclaimed, "Somebody save me." Just then, a hefty fellow waddled in, greeting the young master. But when he saw the troll in front of Aiden, his jaw dropped. "Is that the troll you caught? It should fetch a good price since trolls are rare." Aiden smirked, "I want to use the proceeds to buy some herbs." He turned to the rotund merchant, "Is that possible?" "Of course. Our merchant group has everything," the man replied, but then his face paled. "But those aren't herbs, they're poisonous plants." Aiden's grin widened as he leaned closer, dangerously calm. "So you're saying they're herbs, right?" Yes. "Definitely herbs," the merchant stammered, sweating bullets. "Great. I like easy money," Aiden chirped, watching the man scamper away in a panic. The Underlord chimed in, "Seems like the mercenary habits in you haven't changed." "Shut up," Aiden retorted, rolling his eyes. Just then, Philip rushed in, looking alarmed. "Young master, the Duke is asking for you." Aiden felt a jolt of panic. What does he want? He hurried to his father's room, where laughter echoed from inside. Curious, he knocked and opened the door. His father was there, along with a stranger who smirked and said, "So you're Aiden." Aiden was momentarily speechless. Who was this guy? "Judging by your appearance, I see the rumors about you slaying a troll are true." "Pleasure to meet you," the man continued, his tone dripping with condescension. Recognition dawned on Aiden, and he didn't have fond memories of this old man. "Do you know him?" the Underlord asked. "Just a bit," Aiden replied. "He's an old man who looks down on mercenaries." He plastered on a fake smile. "Nice to meet you, I'm Aiden Ramez." He nodded, "Greetings to the protector of the northeastern border, Margrave Tyree Setes." Margrave Setes raised an eyebrow. "You know me?" "Of course. You're one of the few in the Empire who has reached the level of Swordmaster," Aiden said, keeping it casual. The Margrave smiled at that, but Aiden knew better. The title of Swordmaster was what every knight dreamed of, a transcendent stage that allowed one to cleave mountains and make the air tremble with a breath. Aiden had been there once, it was the stage he needed to reach again. Quite polite for a young man. Setes laughed. Contrary to the rumors. He turned to the Duke. "You've raised a fine son." The Duke nodded but added, "Aiden still has much to learn." Then he asked Margrave Setes, "Is it really alright for you to leave your territory? I heard it was attacked by orcs recently." "Oh, please," Setes scoffed. "I can handle orcs. I have my eyes on bigger prey." Margrave glanced at Aiden, his expression shifting to seriousness. "It's not just your territory that's in danger. There have been suspicious movements at the Slaughter Tower in the Wasteland of Death, managed by the Slaughter Cult." Aiden clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. He had business with the Slaughter Cult too. Traitor Iron-Blooded Saintless would have to wait. Unusual monster movements are occurring in 3 different places at the same time, Margrave continued, turning to the Duke. "Do you really think that's a coincidence?" Duke frowned, contemplating the gravity of the situation. "Now that you mention it, it does seem odd. Maybe we should form an investigation team." Margrave smiled, placing a hand on the Duke's shoulder. "Of course, brother." Then he turned to Aiden, grabbing his shoulder. "How about you join my Knight Order?" Aiden felt his heart race. The Knight Order? Out of nowhere? "What?" he thought, trembling slightly. "I've heard a lot about you," Margrave said. "You reached the stage of sword aura in less than half a year of wielding a sword. I thought it was nonsense until I saw you in person. I can make you the greatest swordsman on the Western continent. I promise that on my name." Duke looked like he was about to say something about Aiden, but Margrave waved him off. "Don't worry, I'll take good care of Aiden." Then Margrave asked Aiden what he thought, leaving him speechless for a moment. But suddenly, a smirk crept onto Aiden's face. "I appreciate the offer, but I must decline." Margrave's eyebrows shot up in surprise. "Do you understand what it means to join the Cetus Knight Order?" "I do," Aiden replied, still smiling. "It's one of the most renowned knightly orders in the Empire. But I'm confident I can become a swordmaster on my own." He thought to himself, "I've already been there, it's just a matter of time. Right now, even if I were to fight you, I could at least scratch you." Margrave's eyes widened in shock, and Duke trembled in fear at Aiden's bold claim. But then Margrave laughed heartily. "That's unbelievably rude." Suddenly, the table shook as Margrave's aura intensified. You're an amazing guy, he said, his amusement evident. Aiden glared at him, master fear, the ability to make even the air tremble. But here he was, holding out against it. Are you sure you can stand by those words? Margrave challenged. Of course, Aiden grinned. How about we make a bet? Margrave looked shocked and confused. A bet? Yeah, Aiden continued, his excitement growing. If you can't land a single scratch on me, I'll join your knight order. But if I win, you have to give me that sword you have. Margrave's eyes widened, and for a moment, he looked mad. But then he burst into laughter. How audacious to think you covet my family heirloom. Duke, Aiden is completely different from you. At that moment, Duke couldn't withstand the pressure of his master's fear and fainted. Fine, Margrave said to Aiden, still chuckling. I accept the bet. Good, Aiden thought, I've been aiming for that sword from the start. Of course, I'll take it when the opportunity arises, he murmured. Beelzebub, one of the legendary swords, he recalled with reverence. Outside the mansion, Aiden and Margrave readied themselves for the duel. Are you planning to use an ogre-slaying sword against goblins? Aiden asked, eyebrow raised. I don't know if you're a goblin or an ogre, Margrave replied, but regardless of who the opponent is, it's a knight's duty to give their best. Aiden rolled his eyes. That damned knightly courtesy. Some things never change, past or present. There are 2 conditions for this match, Aiden declared. No use of the aura blade, and you won't move your right foot. It may seem unfair, he added, but to a swordmaster, that's not even a handicap. If I charge in thoughtlessly, I'll be knocked out immediately. Fine, we have quite an audience, let's get started. Margrave said, grinning like a wolf. Aiden raised his sword, determination flooding through him. Gladly. Suddenly, he jumped forward, surprising Margrave. Aiden pointed his sword directly at him, but Margrave skillfully blocked the attack with his own blade, the clash resonating through the air like thunder. Margrave chuckled as he watched Aiden's determination. Going for the neck right from the start, eh? You must be used to real combat, he commented, but Aiden landed gracefully on the ground and swung his sword again, smirking. I knew you would block it, Aiden replied confidently, his mind already calculating his next move. As expected, Margrave easily deflected the strike. Aiden pressed on, launching a flurry of attacks, but Margrave remained composed, blocking each one. What is this unrefined swordsmanship? Margrave asked, his brow furrowing in confusion. It's like something a ragtag mercenary would use. If you joined our knight order, we'd have to fix that. Aiden felt a surge of anger at the remark. You'll see how I handle this ragtag swordsmanship, he shot back, rushing at Margrave once more. Margrave smiled, dismissing Aiden's charge. I'm not going to lose to such a simpleton. But his confidence faltered when Aiden's sword unexpectedly changed direction. The air crackled with tension as he barely dodged a close call. Gasps filled the crowd, and a man on the right muttered, Is Lord Aiden pushing forward right now? From the center of the crowd, another exclaimed, The rumors about Lord Aiden defeating a troll weren't lies after all. The Duke observed the duel, confusion etched on his face. Even with a penalty, Margrave is a swordmaster. Is it reasonable to say my son is holding his own against him? Margrave's expression darkened, and he launched a barrage of attacks at Aiden. Yet, Aiden stood firm, deflecting each strike. What on earth is this strange swordsmanship? Margrave muttered, bewildered. It's chaotic but precisely targets vital points. I must take this fellow with me, Margrave concluded, gritting his teeth. Aiden, however, was startled as Margrave swung his sword again, barely evading the lethal arc. Is he merely swinging his sword? Careful, the Underlord warned, if you tried to block that just now, you'd have been cut in half. Aiden pressed on, striking back with a new resolve. Margrave commented, You're using an interesting sword technique, but is that all you have? You can't defeat me with this much. Aiden retorted, I'm still standing. I can continue. Margrave chuckled, impressed. You never disappoint. Your eyes are sharp, Aiden. Welcome in advance to my knight order. Thanks in advance for the offer, Aiden replied with a smirk, both of them raising their swords again. In an instant, Aiden lunged forward with blinding speed, leaving Margrave stunned. How can he move at this speed? Margrave thought, realizing he had been deceived. But Aiden zipped past him, a quick slash catching Margrave on the shoulder. Aiden smirked, triumphant. I've just used your own sword, Beelzebub. The spectators erupted into cheers, while the Duke remained speechless, processing the event. Aiden beamed, reveling in his victory. Suddenly, someone shouted, Troll Master. Another added, I always believed in you.
The Underlord interrupted. Aren't you bothered that you used that ring? Aiden frowned, perplexed. What ring?
You seem more suited to the underworld than a hero or a dragon slayer, the Underlord said, shaking his head.
Unhappy? Why are you fidgeting? Aiden countered, smirking. Should I hit you with the holy potion again?
Maybe I'm a hero, just one who cheats, Aiden said, teasingly.
But what's this cheat you keep mentioning?
Margrave, recovering from the surprise, nodded in acknowledgement.
As expected, you didn't disappoint me, Aiden. Luring me into complacency by hiding your skills? You're no average opponent.
It was luck, nothing more, Aiden insisted. Even pretending to be humble, you're quite cheeky, the Underlord chimed in, grinning.
A hero cheat indeed. Aiden looked at his shoulder, surprised it was just a scratch. I thought I'd lose an arm.
Margrave approached him, extending the Beelzebub sword.
Take it as I promised. It's yours now.
Thank you, I'll handle it with care, Aiden said, accepting the legendary sword.
Jackpot, he thought, a grin spreading across his face. Your expressions are crude, the Underlord commented, but I guess it suits you.
Later, in his room at the Duke's house, Aiden examined the Beelzebub sword. Indeed, a legendary sword, he muttered, awe in his voice.
Congratulations, Dragon Slayer, the Underlord teased.
Aiden glanced at him, intrigued.
What happened to the guy who called me a cheat just a moment ago?
He didn't know how to use that sword properly, the Underlord laughed, his eyes sparkling with mischief.
Aiden's curiosity piqued. What's this secret or curse you keep mentioning? The Underlord's expression shifted, becoming serious. Legendary swords have their secrets that humans are unaware of. What kind of secrets? Aiden pressed, eager to know more. Or curses, the Underlord replied cryptically, leaving Aiden in suspense. Aiden gazed at the Beelzebub sword, its blade gleaming ominously in the light. The Underlord, still chuckling, remarked, I won't tell you the secret for free. You'll have to swear allegiance to me as a king and promise never to make me drink that holy potion again for the rest of my life. Just then, blood appeared on the sword, and Aiden instinctively tightened his grip.
Suddenly, a notification system popped up before him, announcing that he had formed a blood pact.
What the?
Aiden exclaimed, glancing at the Underlord, who seemed just as confused.
Did you think I wouldn't know? Aiden smirked, recalling the stories of the dark swords wielded by the Underlord's subordinates. Beelzebub is one of the legendary 72 swords.
On the surface, they look like sturdy blades, but they were forged from the bodies of corrupt lords who once ruled the ancient underworld. They were revealed to be cursed swords much later. Each blade holds the power of a different corrupt lord.
Frustrating, the Underlord muttered, shaking his head. You could have gained the upper hand this time. Aiden's eyes narrowed. Serve you as a king? You're already dead. He grinned wickedly. Prepare to drink one holy potion a day, then.
The Underlord chuckled nervously.
All right, I'm sorry.
The next day, Aiden found himself in the study with the Duke, who was writing. So, you've decided to join Lord Tirid's search party, the Duke asked, looking up with concern.
Yes, Aiden replied confidently. The Duke frowned.
I know you're strong, but this search is dangerous.
It's not a place to take lightly, unlike the Demon Mountain. I'm having a hard time granting you permission. Aiden's determination was unwavering.
But I'm going with Lord Margrave Tirid.
This isn't just any expedition, it's for the safety of our territory. Margrave, standing nearby, laughed. Don't worry, Duke. I'll ensure your son's safety no matter what.
The Duke sighed, clearly worried.
This isn't a picnic, Aiden. I understand, Father, Aiden reassured him. But if it's for our territory, then I want to be involved. Margrave then placed a hand on Aiden's shoulder. Isn't it courageous for a son to step up for his father?
The Duke was taken aback, momentarily speechless.
Aiden smiled, feeling a surge of pride.
In his previous life, he had been useless, but this time, he was proving his worth.
Let's not forget, the Underlord interjected, you might be motivated by the awakening of Beelzebub. Aiden shook his head dismissively. There's no way.
The second condition to awaken the sword is to absorb an enormous amount of life force into it.
Defeating monsters and gaining life force? How delightful.
He stuck out his tongue playfully, only to have the Underlord say, I feel sorry for the monsters for the first time.
Meanwhile, in the Pyran Mountains, chaos erupted in the forest. Wolves and monsters were scurrying in panic. This concludes the latest chapter, and we will be continuing it from here in the next episode.